Today's episode of the Vegan Life podcast is brought to you by Vivo Life. Vivo Life are a health and supplements brand who have a brilliant collection of products. From the everyday essentials like B12, D3 and omega-3, which, let's face it, they're must-haves if you're following a plant-based diet. Greens and multi-nutrient powders, everyday vegan protein powders, mushroom lattes, and much, much more. Vivo Life make my favorite health supplements, and I love that they're an environmentally conscious company. Not only are they certified carbon neutral, but they also plant a tree for each order, and their health supplements taste and make me feel amazing. And there's not many things I can say that about. If you're looking to fill the gaps in your vegan diet, look no further than Vivo Life's natural, healthy, sustainable supplements. Well, hello there. Welcome to the Vegan Life podcast. And my goodness, we've got a subject close to almost everyone's heart today. It's pizza! Oh, come on. You know, I had pizza round at some omnivore relatives of mine the other day, and one of my relatives said, do you know what, I would have vegan pizza, I just can't imagine pizza without cheese. Well, I'm right there with you. You know, you can be vegan and agree with that statement, and I tell you what, among our experts today, we have the absolute queen of vegan cheese. Why don't we meet our chefs for today? Joining us today, we have Mike Hill, who's been plant-based since the 80s. Woof. And then got his son Joe to follow in his footsteps in 2004. In 2016, Joe and his dad took their passion for vegan pizza and started their very own business, One Planet Pizza. They call it Pizza with Purpose. And they're both here today on this One Planet, which they've pretty much covered with their pizza. And Miyoko Schinner is the founder of Miyoko's, the fastest growing plant-based cheese and butter company in the country, carried in more than 30,000 retailers worldwide. Miyoko is a sought-after speaker for events and conferences and was named to the Forbes 50 over 50 list in 2021 as one of the country's top women who are changing the world. And she's got a new cookbook out called the Vegan Meat Cookbook. And I want to add that your book on how to make cheese in my early days of veganism 10 years ago was such a lifeline. In fact, you can see on YouTube, you can watch me attempting to make one of your cheese recipes. It was catastrophic, but that's no reflection on your wonderful book. I sucked.
Thank you.
I think the main problem was that I started the food processor not realizing that the blade cover was still on the blade. Which was,
well, there you go.
It gave it a nice sort of plasticky note.
Yes.
It was still good. What can I tell you? It was vegan cheese.
A little bit of microplastic in your cheese, however.
Yeah. Exactly. I just wanted to know how the fish felt. I wanted to empathize, man. But no, you are truly the queen of vegan cheese. Anyway. It's pizza time. I don't want to waste too much time before we get on to that. But I do have a question, which is, what's the best vegan food you've eaten recently? Joe, let's start with you.
Well, me and Mike ask ourselves this question every week.
Yeah.
And we're absolutely spoilt for choice. Probably the same with Miyoko in the States, but in the UK, there are new vegan spots opening up all the time. The one that takes the crown for me is in Bristol. Quite a large city in the UK. There is an incredible Persian-inspired meze restaurant.
You're going to say Kucha, aren't you?
You know the one? You've been there?
But she was on the podcast like 2 weeks ago. She was amazing.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Best meal I've ever had. I told Mike about it, and I was so excited when I told the nice chap who served us at the end. He finished on dessert and then one more drink, and I said, "This is the single best vegan meal I've ever had." And
wow.
He didn't really know what to say, but he wasn't half as excited as me and my girlfriend.
It is literally the next vegan place I think I'm going to eat, and I'm so excited.
Yep, I recommend the asparagus creamy dip. Incredible.
Wonderful. Mike, what about you? Same?
Yeah, a bit of a theme going on here. Mine is actually, it wasn't at a vegetarian or vegan restaurant. It's a little Lebanese restaurant. So there's definitely a Persian Arabic theme going on here. And I just love it because I get the tabbouleh, I get the hummus, the falafel, They do a warm dip made with fava beans. I think it's called
Foul Madames. Yeah.
That's the one. So, yeah, I just love that because it's tasty. It's that combination of hot and cold. It feels healthy, and I'm not too heavy, after eating that.
You absolutely need to listen to our Middle Eastern World Tour special podcast.
Okay.
You'll absolutely love it. It had all of that on it.
Yeah.
And Miyoko, what about you?
Well, you guys are making me hungry and wanting to go back to the UK because it just seems like the food there is amazing. I remember first time I went to England, 40 years ago or so, and I was vegetarian at the time. It was so hard to get anything. And today, it just seems like there's a vegan restaurant on every single street corner. We were walking down Brick Lane pre-pandemic, and oh my gosh, you couldn't walk half a block without seeing another vegan restaurant. So you guys have come a long ways. I can't say that we have that where I live anyway, but I would say the best food that I've eaten for me, every single day, it's the last meal I had because we're so fortunate at Miyoko's. We have a staff kitchen. We have amazing chefs there that prepare, that feed 200 people every single day, delicious vegan food. Today was Asian, and I'm still thinking about the lunch I had about an hour ago, thinking, wow, I'd love some more of that. So I just feel so grateful, so fortunate that we have that opportunity here.
That sounds. I feel like you've figured it out. You've done a great job there. I need to build my empire. Let's get on to the topic du jour, which is pizza. People have been emailing with their questions. You can always email us on any aspect of vegan cooking and we'll field it to the best chef possible. It's podcast@veganlifemag.com. And I'm going to combine the first two questions from Andrew first. Andrew says, what's the panel's favorite combination of ingredients to put on a pizza? And what's the weirdest combination of ingredients that they put on a pizza that have worked? And Jason sort of has a slightly Father Jack addition to that, which is to just say pineapple, which I guess he's just opening the debate, which is a strong opening gambit. Miyoko, what do you like on a pizza?
Oh my God, absolutely not pineapple. In fact, it's funny because, I go to Italy every single year and the Italians have this joke about Americans or the Brits putting pineapple on pizza.
Yeah.
Also chicken and pineapple. Those are the things you just never put on pizza. I don't know. I guess I'm sort of a purist. I love just a straight up Neapolitan style margarita. Yeah. But I do love interesting combinations. There's an amazing pizza restaurant, a vegan pizzeria in San Francisco called Above Ground, started by the founders of Millennium. One of the leading vegan restaurants in the United States. And oh my gosh, their pizzas are there's so much attention to detail to every single flavor combination. What I don't like are the restaurants you go into where you can pick your toppings. I really prefer to have it beautifully curated by a chef who's really put his time and effort into really coordinating all the flavors and colors.
That's a nice, Sometimes we have too much freedom, perhaps. Joe and Mike, you must have tried a lot of combinations with all your experimentation.
I think we try new things every day, don't we, Mike? Probably, once a week we have a crazy pizza that someone's daring us to try and at least messaging us. We better be careful what we say, though, if we've got a purist on the call. So I think...
it's okay. I don't really have to separate you. There's about 3,000 miles of ocean between you.
We're safe. I'm personally a massive fan of pineapple on pizza.
Wow, that's 1-1, everyone.
There you go. I'm just as entry-level stuff. But probably for us, the weirdest thing that we sell and people seem to like is a cheeseburger pizza, which is a classic mashup of two...
Oh, yeah.
Two meals delivered in one portion.
Yeah.
And the weirdest thing on that is going to be the gherkins.
Yes.
It probably makes pineapple look quite tame, I think.
Yeah.
But people love it and it tends to work. It's got that lovely sharp, sort of tangy bitterness. And
I
you
can
can combine that with the other flavors.
I can hear Miyoko sharpening her pizza cutter for your hands.
I'm rolling my eyes. No. Well, I think because I do come from Japan originally. There is a nod to tradition that is part of, I think, my gastronomic pleasures. Although I definitely like a new spin on tradition. I find that I just can't go to pineapple. Sorry, I'm not sure about pickles either. But
it's about
but there's
50-50
a lot of room
split.
for creativity in pizza. Absolutely.
The other craziest thing that Mike may lead on to is that we're working on a Christmas pizza, and last year,
oh wow, I
dread to think what Miyoko is going to say to this, is that we put Brussels sprouts on a Christmas pizza with cranberry sauce.
I mean,
well, Brussels sprouts. I've had Brussels sprout pizza, and I think Brussels sprouts could go very, very well on a pizza. It's all a matter of how you treat them. Have you roasted them? Have you boiled them? Have you shaved them? Caramelized them? It's all in the treatment of Brussels sprouts. And same thing with all greens. You can definitely do kale or chard. I love chard on a pizza. There's definitely room for greens on a pizza, I believe, but it's all a matter of how you treat them.
So come on then,
Absolutely.
Joe. How did you treat them?
How do you treat your sprouts,
How did
Joe?
you treat your sprout? Did you treat them well, Joe?
I tell you what, these were just boiled.
Wow.
Just boiled Brussels sprouts.
Pure
Okay, I am wincing now. I am wincing now.
You were okay. You had every opportunity to convert that into a goal. Oh well.
They will. I tell you what, though, when we make them this year, we start developing now. We're gonna put a bit more attention to the Brussels sprouts in your honour, and we're gonna look at boiling or potentially roasting or grilling them. I think.
Oh yeah, you gotta roast them. They're the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Roasting them, you could marinate them first and then roast them. You could also shave the Brussels sprouts and then caramelize them with onions. And olives, for example. So you're getting a little bit of that sweetness. You're getting some of that briny flavor of a Kalamata olive or something like that with the Brussels sprouts. I mean, that would be delicious. Then drizzle with olive oil. Maybe even put that on some sort of white sauce instead of tomato sauce. I mean, I think that would be really, really delicious.
This is amazing that a whole podcast episode effectively devoted to a kind of a junky food. And we'll talk about Brussels sprouts.
I don't know about pizza doesn't have to be junky. Pizza can be very, very elevated.
That's very true.
It can be absolutely one of the life's true pleasures. And I don't know. I guess when you talk about pineapple, I think we're going down this very Americanized sort of junk food route, which I struggle with a little bit. But yeah.
Well, the thing that we do in Britain that people don't do in America is we put sweet corn on pizza. That's like a really common thing, and Americans are appalled by that. So I'll see your pineapple.
So how was the corn treated? Because the Japanese
in
put corn in.
Yeah, we do treat it right. We take it out of the can first.
Oh, lovely!
But that's about as far as we go.
The whole can on there, gee.
Depends how many drinks you've had, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we're not even talking about freshly
no,
off the car.
No.
Oh, gee. Okay. All right. This is getting to be a little difficult of a conversation for me here.
Yeah. Miyoko's like, I had no idea I was going to have to work this hard through this, but you'll get us there. We'll learn from you. Mike, what about you? Don't be afraid now. Miyoko's a long way away. You can do this.
I've got to come out and say that I'm probably responsible for Joe liking pineapple, because when we were growing up,
I blame the parents.
Saturday night was always family pizza nights. We'd make our own dough, our own sauce, and we didn't use cheese back in those days, because this was like, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago. The only vegan cheese around. I don't know if your cheese was around there, Miyoko, but it obviously wasn't in the UK. There wasn't any decent cheese, so I always used to make them without cheese, but with more toppings. And I'm afraid pineapple was a go-to, but I've come off it. I've weaned myself off it recently. And interestingly, I'm actually over in Croatia. I'm in Croatia at the moment.
Oh wow!
And so we're covering quite a few different countries tonight. And I had a pizza last night. And when I travel to some places where they haven't got vegan cheese, I actually quite enjoy having it without cheese. And they had a really unusual one on last night at this restaurant. It was a Mexican pizza, and it had fresh chilies on. It didn't have sweet corn, but the key thing it had on was the red kidney beans, with a lot of oregano and some paprika. And it worked. I was surprisingly well. So it was like a Tex-Mex pizza. But the other thing that I absolutely love, going back to the greens, is I love rocket. I think you call it arugula.
Arugula.
Is that right?
Arugula.
Arugula. I do like fresh arugula, and they tend to do that in Italy on the pizzas. I don't know if they do in America, but for some reason
they do.
Yeah, that goes really well. Just the fresh rocket, as we call it, just thrown onto the pizza at the end. And I'm quite happy without the cheese, especially if I've got a good olive oil and perhaps a little bit of a good balsamic vinegar as well. So I tend to mix it up on my pizzas,
Yeah, in fact, you can have pizza in Italy without any cheese at all. In fact, I believe the original pizza was just bread with tomatoes. That was it.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
today you can still buy just with pomodoro, and you can get potato pizza without any cheese or even tomato sauce. So there are so many different varieties that are completely classy and legit.
I think they call it the
marinara.
Marinara, that's what I was just going to say. I was up in northern Italy a couple of years ago, and that was a regular on the dish, and it was just classic plain thin crust with served with the sauce on, and a good olive oil makes all the difference. I think just drizzled on that sort of pizza.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's all about the crust. What is that made like? That and just the sauce. And they don't cook sauce in Italy. Do you know that, right? It's just
right.
It's just literally they open up a can of San Marzano tomatoes and they just pure it with a little bit of maybe a little olive oil, maybe a little garlic, maybe not, a little salt, a little oregano. They're done. That's it. Like there is no cooking of sauce at all. It's all raw.
I mean, obviously, it behooves a good host to be scrupulously impartial. And any regular listeners to this podcast will know that I am, unless we're talking about tempeh, which is the work of the devil.
No.
Well, we'll get into that later. But I understand the authenticity of the cheeseless pizza, but come on. In fact, Annie has emailed to say, what's the best vegan cheese to have on pizza? Oh, now that's a great question. Miyoko, I feel like there may be a fairly heavy bias to your answer.
Well, we actually have a brand new cheese that we just started launching. We tested it at a pizza chain in California starting last year, and now we're rolling it out nationwide. But and we're going to be hitting retail shelves soon. But this is actually a liquid mozzarella. You pour it on a pizza, and it bakes up into a stretchy, gooey mass.
Wow.
It's made from fermented milk, so the milk is actually fermented. And so it doesn't have any natural flavors in it. It doesn't have coconut oil in it, which is the key to most vegan cheeses in the marketplace are really just made out of oil and starch, and have no actual milk made from plants in it. And so our approach is a little different. We start out with plant milk, just like dairy milk, and we ferment it just like dairy cheese, and we turn it into cheese. But we do have this brand new pizza mozzarella. It's strictly for pizza. It's fantastic.
Oh, wow.
You can see pics of it on our website. And so we think that's the best that we've had anyway. And that's what we're being told by top pizzerias in the country, is, because it doesn't have a funny aftertaste. Oftentimes vegan cheeses have sort of an aftertaste that comes from the natural flavors that are added. And so this is devoid of natural flavors. The flavors just come from fermentation.
Amazing.
So anyway, that's my opinion. That's not in the UK. I'd love to hear what you all think. What are you guys using?
Well, absolutely. For those of us not running a California-based pizzeria, which I'm not, Joe and Mike, what would you go for?
Go on, Joe. You go first.
Yeah, this is one of our areas of expertise, whether we like it or not. So, I mean, that's really exciting to hear, Miyoko. We're always on the lookout for the next best pizza cheese. So, I'll definitely be following up and would love to talk about, potentially getting hold of some of that cheese and testing it out.
As they say in meetings, you definitely need to take this conversation offline. But not now.
But yeah. Joe Hill has logged out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So bringing back to the UK, I mean, there are new vegan cheeses popping up left, right, and centre. It's incredibly exciting, pioneering space to sort of in and around. So for us, generally speaking, in the UK, there are about 3 or 4 mass-produced vegan cheeses that are both a very decent quality for pizza, but also affordable, which narrows it down a lot for us because there are lots of brilliant cheeses made from, ingredients like cashews that just cost a lot of money to get hold of, and for us also they don't freeze and recook very well, so it narrows our search down a lot. So I think we can safely say that a company called V-Bites, the north of England, produce a brilliant pizza cheese called Cheesley with a Z. That's what we currently use across our range. And they do about 3 or 4 flavours. We use their mature mostly. And they also produce the Applewood cheese, which is probably not widely considered to be the best vegan cheese on the UK market. It's got this lovely, rich, smoky flavour, very similar to a mature cheddar, and all the cheeses that V-Bites produce have a fantastic melt, which is what a lot of people are after. And then the other couple that come to mind are Cheese. So Cheese with an S. They're produced on a small island off Scotland, and we used them when we first started. Another great cheese company, and it's sort of widely available. Works very well on in terms of meltability and flavour. And then the other one is we've worked quite a lot in the past with Follow Your Heart, and they do a couple of really good pizza cheeses, and they have done for a while, and that obviously comes over from America. Yeah. So they're the ones that spring to mind, but this development from Miyoko sounds really exciting.
I think what's really exciting in terms of the sort of development commercially of cheeses now is that they are starting to find ways to follow traditional cheese making methods. You were talking, Miyoko, about the fermentation that you do, and the recipes in your cheese making cookbook involved fermentation. And I think for a long time people were just sort of mucking about with starch and fat and cheese flavor stuff. And now we're actually getting back to, all of that kind of process and those depths of flavors that you get. I'm going to throw in my 2 cents. I'm going to say, Annie, if you can't get any of that, Sainsbury's or Tesco's do a really good basic cheese. You could just stick it on a pizza and you know what? It's pretty good.
You're right. And you know who makes it, Jake?
Who?
Cheese.
It's cheese, isn't it? Yeah.
Probably, yeah. It's one of the big 3 in the UK.
Yeah.
Do all the sort of white label stuff. Really interesting.
Yeah. It's really good stuff. Okay, Francis says, can I have a vegan Alfredo sauce recipe? Mike, do you have one? And first of all, can you describe an Alfredo sauce for people who are like, I can't remember what that is, namely me?
Years ago, even before I wrote the vegan cheese cookbook, there is a video you can find on YouTube of me making an Alfredo sauce. It was back in the day. I had a little, just a local TV station made a 6-episode series called Miyoko's Kitchen, which later on, of course, Miyoko's Kitchen became the company name eventually. But back in the 2000s, I did this little video of making vegan Alfredo sauce, and it's very simple. It is a cashew-based sauce, and it's about 30% cashews in a base of water with white wine, garlic, nutritional yeast, salt, and literally it heats up. The cashews are about 10% starch, so when you heat it up, it thickens the sauce naturally, so you don't have to add any flour or any other thickening agents. And that alone, combined with the white wine and the garlic, makes an amazing sauce.
That sounds really good.
Okay. We couldn't compete with that, Mike, can we? But it does sound like all of our kitchen staple ingredients at the same time.
Yes, yeah.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to go and hunt that out on the YouTube, and you should too, Francis. Okay, we're around halfway through the podcast, and it's time for us to ask the immortal question. What do you do? What do you do with tofu? Yes. What do you do with tofu? And this is a free pass. It doesn't have to involve pizza. This is simply if I pressed a block of tofu into your hand right now, apart from looking at me like I was a bit mad, what would you do with it? Mike, I'm going to start with you.
I'm glad you did, because this is my this is my speciality subject. So right now, what I do, probably over the last year, I've really got into my scrambled tofu. And recently, myself and Joe went on to, we can't tell you who it is, but a very famous and quite elderly female cook in the BBC, who appears regularly on BBC, where it's about
Fanny Craddock.
Yeah, now you're showing your age.
Yeah.
We went on, and we were asked to do an unusual vegan dish, and we did a scrambled tofu, but it wasn't any sort of plain scrambled tofu. It had caramelized onions in it. Of course, it had the black salt, the turmeric, a little bit of cumin, a little bit of garlic. What else did it have, Joe? But it was. I do love a good scrambled tofu, correctly fried, in a good oil. The black salt for me is a must. There's one or two scrambled tofus that are now being commercially produced, and they've just got normal salt in. They haven't got black salt.
What?
And I think that's just crazy, isn't it?
The black salt is key, isn't it? If you really want to be fancy with your scrambled tofu and show off a little bit and make it as close to real egg as possible, then you buy a block of your extra firm tofu, and you buy some of your your less firm silk tofu, and you go half and half, and then that replicates the different textures within a scrambled egg, and that really makes it pop.
Sounds epic. Miyoko, what about you?
Well, I grew up on tofu, and to me, tofu is a magical food. It can be served in thousands of different ways with thousands of different textures. Oftentimes in the United States, I don't know about the UK, you find more of the so-called very firm tofu that's been pressed. But in Japan, there's a whole range of tofu that is not just the silken, but very, very delicate. Tofu that is so fresh and delicious. All it really needs is a little grating of ginger and a splash of soy sauce, and eaten cold. And it sounds very bizarre, but it's absolutely a thing that is delicious in and of itself. But with tofu, you can turn it into desserts by pureeing it and turning it into mousses or puddings or whipped toppings or sauces. You can bake with it and turn it into, back in the day before vegan cheese, we learned how to ferment vegan cheese. We used to make cheesecake out of tofu, for example, 30 years ago. You can also freeze tofu. And by freezing tofu, it forms these air pockets. You press the water out of it, and now you've got this chewy substance that's like meat that will absorb any marinade. And then you can throw it on the grill. You can make steak out of it, fried chicken by coating it in something and baking it in the oven, or deep frying it. So frozen tofu is another possibility that just expands the entire repertoire of possible textures that are possible with tofu. And then once again, you have the fresh tofu itself that can be prepared in so many different ways. The scramble is definitely one. Of course, you could turn it into a quiche as well, because tofu has both leavening and binding functionalities, which people don't know about oftentimes. So that's why it's a great substitute for something like quiche, or even making a frittata or an omelet. You can make your own omelet base with tofu as well. It helps to bind things in cakes or in making something like pancakes. While you don't need it, it can add another layer of flavor and texture. You can turn it into ricotta by breaking it up. Today for lunch, I had a baked tofu, slices of marinated tofu that were baked, that were coated in coconut and served with a sweet and sour sauce.
Amazing.
And so there's just so many, there's just literally thousands and thousands of possibilities. It's not just all Asian or bland.
Sure.
We're in good hands here, aren't we?
We're in very good hands. And I think quite often when I ask this question, when we ask this every episode, and very often people sort of say, well, I mean, the thing with tofu is that, it really needs a lot of flavor. I'm like, does it? Because I've gone so far down the hole with tofu that, like you, Miyoko, I'm like, I really just a sprinkle of salt and I'm fine. I'm kind of happy with tofu. Very good. Thank you very much for those. I'm always the first to tell you that a healthy diet's the most important thing. Am I right, guys? No, but it is. There are some nutrients, though, that can be difficult to get when you're plant-based. That's why I take Vivo Life's vegan vitamin B12, omega-3 and D3 daily. Did you know it's been reported that 98% of us are not consuming enough omega-3? Vivo Life's omega-3 is made from sustainably grown algae, not fish, so it doesn't harm marine life. And because it comes from algae, it also doesn't contain any of the nasty heavy metals like mercury, which you often find, sadly, in fish. And finally, their omega-3 comes in liquid form, rather than those gigantic capsules. That means the omega-3 is consumed by your body in a more direct way, and it's stronger and more potent than almost any other omega-3. The best thing of all is that I know all of their products are made with natural ingredients I can trust. So if you're interested in trying their plant-based supplements, then you can use my code, VEGANLIFE, all one word, to get 10% off your first purchase on the vivolife.co.uk website. Let's get back to the topic of the day, which is pizza. And we've got some more questions here. Rob has emailed. He says, I used to love goat's cheese, pine nuts and caramelized onion pizza. What's a good goat's cheese recipe, please? Miyoko, I'm coming straight to you.
Well, goat cheese is very tangy. It's very sharp. So fermentation, I think, is really, really key. Cashews always make a good start for making a goat cheese recipe. I have, there's so many goat cheese recipes online. You can find them. They're in my book, Artisan Vegan Cheese for goat cheese. But if you can make something out of a fermented nut of some sort, and then you let it age for a little bit and make it salty, it will start to develop those strong, sort of funky flavors that people like in goat cheese.
Yes. Okay, that's a top tip. Joe, Mike, have you had a go at any goat's cheese business?
I used to love it, Mike. You probably don't remember. I used to absolutely love goat's cheese, and it's one of those things you just, if you cut out the dairy and you go vegan, it's just something you're probably not going to be able to replicate, 100%, or at least find in shops compared to normal cheddars. But I do know that there are a couple of cashew cheese brands in the UK where I've met them at events or bought their cheese, and it has been brilliant. So I think I Am Not Okay, and the Kind Co is another UK London-based cashew cheese alternative brand, and a very small batches. You have to order online through their shop. You can't find them in stores, but they do brilliant cashew-based alternatives. It's definitely, as Miyoko will say,
it's definitely worth looking around, and definitely worth supporting these artisans putting new things together. I would say if you haven't tried the Violife Greek White Block, it's kind of billed as a replacement for feta. To me, it tastes like goat's cheese. I would say probably don't cook it. I'd be tempted to sort of just break it up a bit and put it on top of your pizza after it was cooked. But honestly, it's pretty good, Rob. Give it a go if you haven't. Final question. Laura says, I love reinventing food or using a certain ingredient in a different way. What are things you can do to reinvent the pizza? Oh, sure. Just because it's wheel shaped, you want to reinvent it. Miyoko, I mean, you're kind of a purist. You've said you're quite old school with the pizza.
Oh, gosh. I mean, I think you can always reinvent pizza. For me, it is all about the flavor combinations. And it's clear you guys are reinventing it every single day too. I think there's a lot of reinventing to do just with meat alternative meat replacements, as well as different cheeses. I think there's a lot of work that can be done there. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. I think people are reinventing pizza every day. So the different shapes, different thicknesses of dough. In America, we have Chicago style, which is deep dish pizza. Now there's cauliflower pizza crusts and gluten-free pizza crusts.
Let me jump in. I want to know.
It's not just topping.
How do you feel about the cauliflower crust thing? I haven't tried it.
I'm not
a fan. Yes, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it isn't just how have you reinvented it, but have you made it better? Is it tastier? And I think that's something that, we're always chasing the new technology, the new whatever it is, and sometimes new doesn't make it better.
I think one of the main reasons we've got that cauliflower pizza base is the gluten-free market, and there are some very good gluten-free bases out there. Our gluten-free pizza, we do 2 or 3 flavors, and the base is exceptional. I actually prefer it to the traditional one. Obviously we're talking about frozen pizza here, not fresh. Mm-hmm. But don't you think so, Joe? The gluten-free base is that they can produce now. They're not cheap, but they are very, very good.
Yeah, there's a real disparity, isn't there? You've got some brilliant ones, but you've got to know where to find them. Ours is made out of chickpea flour, and it's incredible what our base supplier can do with chickpeas. Yeah. But if you went and bought one, you could have a terrible one. So it's kind of just, you've really got to be a bit more careful because there are good and bad ones out there. But yeah, in terms of reinventing pizza, everyone's absolutely right that it's a really exciting category, and it's kind of, a lot of it's led by how good is the vegan cheese, which is what the average person wants to know. It's the question we always get asked is, yes, I want pizza and I love pizza and I miss it if I've gone vegan. How good is your cheese? Does it melt? Does it look like cheese? Does it smell like cheese? Does it taste like cheese? And it's great to see that there are so many brilliant brands like Miyoko's that are pushing that category forward and raising the bar. So I think it will always be reinvented as long as the cheese is being reinvented.
I would say on that chickpea flour tip, we've talked to the past Anton Petrov on this podcast previously. He makes a tofu scramble with fermented chickpea flour slurry. It's a 5-to-1 ratio of chickpea flour to water. You leave it for, I think, 4 or 5 days until it starts to almost start bubbling, and then you mix some of that with some silken tofu. It's a completely different tofu scramble. It's got an extraordinary flavor with some real kind of omelette-y, eggy notes to it. And it's not a million miles away from farinata, which is an Italian flatbread made out of chickpea flour. So I would say, that's where you want to be experimenting. If you're going to be experimenting there, Laura, chickpea flour is a top tip, I think. So there you go. New and traditional all in one. We're out of questions. If you could only eat one pizza for the rest of your life, what would it be, Miyoko?
God, it would probably be a mushroom pizza with a variety of mushrooms like maitake, king trumpet, chanterelles, morels, topped with chard and tossed in olive oil.
Amazing.
Wow.
That sounds good. Joe, what about you?
I tell you what, I'm gonna be sensible here because we've been watching a lot of Walking Dead, and I'm always in survival mode. I'm gonna go for a roasted med veg pizza with olives, selection of grilled vegetables, olive oil, and some little drizzles of hummus on top, just because that will keep me alive the longest.
Okay, that's good. I like your instincts. Mike, what about you?
I'm going to be, and we didn't talk about this before, but I'm going to be incredibly boring. I was going med veg as well. It must be the way I brought you up, Joe. It was always med veg, wasn't it? There wasn't any meat substitutes around then.
Stick to your veg.
I blame the parents.
Yeah, but I'm not going to go with the hummus. I love hummus, but don't mix it up with pizza.
Thank you very much. Biting my tongue there.
It was a bit of a bombshell to drop at the end.
Yeah.
So I'd stick on some fresh chilies instead of the hummus.
Yeah. Okay, well, you know what? I'm just going to go there. Cheeseburger for the win. All right. You guys are all cowards. Cheeseburger. Why not? You have all been quite inspiring. I mean, pizza requires very little inspiration. It's always a bit of a joy, but some gorgeous new ideas to try there. Thank you so much. Joe and Mike, I guess, Mike, where can we find your pizzas and you online?
Yeah, sure. It's dead easy to find us. It's just oneplanetpizza.com. We're on social media again. Just search for One Planet Pizza. In terms of the pizzas themselves, we're widely available across the UK. We've really grown up supporting independent stores over the last few years. So most good independent stores with freezers will have us. And a couple of years ago, we started our own online service. So at the website, if you're in the UK, we can ship the pizzas direct to your home.
Perfect. Can you come and put them directly into my mouth? I don't really want to have to do anything.
You have to pay extra for that, Jake.
If the price is right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We'll take this conversation offline, I think.
Offline,
yeah. And
To the dark web.
Yeah, exactly. Miyoko, where can people find you and your stuff?
Well, we're mostly in the United States and Canada, a little bit in South Africa and Asia, but we're not in Europe yet. Although I have heard people, I've heard people say they've been able to buy our products. I think they're just stores that are buying them from one of our distributors. But you can find us mostly on. You can find us online, miyokos.com, miyokos.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Don't forget that you can always email us your questions. It's podcast@veganlifemag.com. Veganlifemag.com is where you can get a subscription to the magazine. There's lots of stuff on there. There's recipes, loads of stuff. You should go and check it out. Or you can just go and buy the magazine in the shop if you like. Or you can download the app if you're sitting on your sofa and someone's pushing pizza into your mouth for you because you paid a premium. And we're on Instagram. It's veganlife_podcast. If you'd like to come and say hello there, that would be brilliant. In the meantime, from me, Jake Yap, take care of yourselves. Do share, do subscribe. It's the only way we can grow this podcast. And lots of love. Bye-bye. This has been a Swanburst Media production.